I'm not sure if you can hear me well, but this is the first game of the match between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. We are watching from Carlsen's point of view, and I want to make sure that everything is working, so you can feel free to enjoy the first game. It's chess 960, and Carlsen is black. As you can see, the pieces are not arranged in the traditional fashion, and yeah, just watch the first game, and I'll finish my last minute, let's say, technical issues. So, what do we have on the board? I'll just adjust pieces. No, this is good. I wonder if I can make arrows on chess.com. I can move the pieces myself, but I'll rather not interrupt the game. Yeah, and I can make some arrows. Okay, so okay, this is an interesting position. I wish I had started to stream a bit earlier and watched right from the beginning, but yeah, we can see that. I mean, I see that white is the only one with the rook on the open file right now. Seems like he's a little bit more developed, but better developed, but the knight on h1 is gonna find it a bit tough to enter the game. So yeah, and in chess 960 you can castle in a normal fashion, so white could also have castled long if he wanted to. I'll briefly explain the rules of this match, the time controls, although you can check it in my description if you're not too sure. So the first hour and a half of the match will be 5+3 Blitz, then an hour of 3+2, followed by half an hour of 1+1 bullet. And I believe each game will count as 1 point. So the overall winner will be the one who will have more points from the 3 parts combined. And yeah, each segment will start with the first game of chess 960. So this position is quite unbalanced, but it seems like white is better developed for the moment. He finished let's say the opening phase of his development. Other than the knight on h1, who should probably find his way to the center, all his pieces are developed, and black is still yet to bring out this bishop from e8 and castle his king, either kingside or queenside, but I think the kingside will be safer. So his problem is that if he moves the bishop somewhere, then the pawn then the pawn on f7 will be hanging like this. So I'm not sure what Magnus will play, and he chose queen d6. So it took him more than a minute to play this move, but it wasn't an easy choice. He sacrificed the pawn on b7, but you probably saw bishop takes, but he missed knight a5, I assume, because now knight b7 looks really strong, just winning material. Am I missing something? Just knight takes b7. I'll have a brief. Oh, b4. Wow, playing for the initiative. Seems like black is not having too much fun in this position. c4, bishop d7. So he's going for compensation, but I'm not sure he has so much of it going on. Okay, what can white play? queen a5 looks reasonable, just moving to a logical square and yeah, attacking the pawn on a7, but I guess he wants to prevent the castle, black from castling. If black will castle with the king to g8, he will be relatively safer, and the rook will be on f8, in case you don't know the rules of the Fischer random. And yeah, I feel like now after bishop f6, white should probably play a4, trying to get to put pressure on this c4 pawn. I like the move a4. But then bishop takes a4. It's not that simple. I'd probably search for a way to get this knight from h1 to the game. Then it should just be a matter of time before black will collapse. Okay, queen g2. So I think white just wants to play g4 and get the knight out at some point. Yeah, but the pawn on f4 will be hanging. So e4. Yeah, that's a good plan. Now black is almost forced to take, but after de, the open d file will be in white's favor, because black's king is in the center. So this doesn't look good for Carlsen. So he got the pawn back, but he's still an exchange down, and his king is going to face heavy artillery in the next few moves. Is that going to be under a reasonable amount of fire? Okay, bishop c6, trading the main defender. Then rook d1 probably will follow, and it doesn't look like the first game has gone well for Magnus. c3, but let's see. He's known to fight until the end and tries best recruiting, let's say, every single resource in the position. So what can you play here? I'm not too sure. So wow, this doesn't look too good. Knight h5. Trading black's probably strongest piece. You can't do much to avoid it. Yeah. Knight h4. I would consider taking on h4 and then playing queen d2. But might not be as strong as it looks. It does do it. Good guess. Now bishop f6 is not possible, because simply knight f6 followed by either queen or rook c3 with a completely winning position. So I can't say there are too many hopes. Yeah, king b7, giving up the pawn. Now the simplest will be queen takes. Yeah, now black will probably have to resign soon. Queen c6 will be a simple approach. Yeah, just exchanging. Rook e3, knight g7. Yeah, rook c3 now, just protecting the pawn on e3, and knight g7 will follow. Black doesn't seem to have too many pieces to compensate. And knight g7 immediately. That's very precise. And black resigned. Okay. I wanted to mention two things before starting, but I was a bit late and arrived immediately for the first game, so I'll do it in between the games probably. Wanted to mention who is my favorite and who I think will win and so on. And every now and then I'll look at the chat, of course, although we don't have too much activity. So we get a relatively normal blitz position. White is playing the King's Indian attack, also known as Kia. And Yeah, now typically white plays some e4. He can play it even immediately because after e4 de there's knight g5, and I cannot really demonstrate the moves, but if de knight g5 and there is a pin, so he will not lose any material. And then the normal plan is to go e5 and queen e2, rook e1, and try to create some threats on the king side. So yeah, here black usually plays knight c6, e5, knight d7, c3 is another approach to wait a little bit before closing the center, because black sometimes wants to castle long, so it might be a good idea to leave the tension in the center. So knight f1, that's the typical move, and now bishop f4 is kind of a threat, and black has to do something against it. I can't say I'm a big fan of Hikaru's position. DE, DE. Okay, so he opens up the center. Now it's probably gonna castle. And white has a little bit more space. Queen c8, that's interesting. Preparing bishop a6, I assume. Also, I guess he was ready for bishop f4. But white didn't have to play it now because black already ran away, escaped with his queen. So he kind of lost the tempo as far as I can tell. But black's position is not too promising anyway. Okay, so I see in the chat someone mentions that George, thank you, that the quality only goes up to 360. I'll try to update it as I stream, see if it works. If we'll face issues, then I'll change it later. So I'm not sure if I can update while I'm streaming, so let's have a look what happens now. So apologies for not commentating on the moves, but from what I see now, after knight g6, white is slightly better. and I will have a look once I fix the video issues. I wonder if it matters in order to see the board better, because I don't really care too much about the camera, so maybe it's somewhere here. Well, I don't really know how to change it, so before starting to stream, it's very easy to choose the video bitrate and say which resolution I like, but now I don't see this button anywhere. So if anyone has suggestion, feel free to suggest in the chat, but for now I'll leave it this way. So let's have a look. The position once again. So the position has changed quite a bit since the last time we saw it, and yeah, black managed to trade a pair of bishops. He traded another pair of pieces, so he's suffering a little bit less than from the lack of space, small lack of space, and he also has control of the open file, so it shouldn't be worse anymore. So yeah, I'm really curious if any of them will miss any tactics along the match, any huge tactics that I might be able to spot even. I highly doubt so. So let's see. Black has the open file, but white still has more space, and he controls the d2 square with the knight, so you can't really complain. I think black will probably bring his king to the center in the next few moves. White should probably go f4 now, yeah. I would rather play b3, but then rook d3 might hit c3, yeah. So king f2. Now if knight c4, or just rook e2, or even b3 with tempo. But then knight b2. If b3, then knight b2. So what can white do? If knight c4, rook e2. Seems like the most logical move. He allows knight b2. Okay, I guess he sees something. Carlsen doesn't allow such moves for nothing. Yeah, he wanted to play king e2 probably, and the knight would be trapped. So Nakamura kind of admitted having missed it by going back, and now Carlsen is pressing. It's very close to equal, but he still has the space. So normally speaking, if white wants to play for advantage, he wouldn't exchange the rooks. Yeah, but maybe I don't understand it as deeply as Carlsen does. If you don't exchange the rooks and you try to create another open file, it might be more challenging for black. But I'm not sure where the pawn break would come in an effective manner. So g4. So we have a knight endgame. Mikhail Botvinnik said, the world champion, that knight endgames are like pawn endgames. The one who has the better king is usually the one with the advantage, and the same rules apply. So white has more space with the pawns, so assuming he doesn't lose any of them by any forks or something, then he should be the one pressing. King f3. Okay, so I'm really curious what's the plan here for white. I don't consider myself to be too strong of a player in the endgame phase, and every time I see a blitz game between such legends, let's say, I feel like it's a free lesson. So f5, this is the typical pawn break. I believe the threat was f6 and then g5 to create a passed h-pawn later on. Yeah, now black is trying to solve his problems by means of tactics. If king f4, he wanted to probably go back to d5. Sorry. Yeah, now white protected the pawn. He just wants to bring the king to e4 and continue to squeeze black. f6. So he allows white to create a protected passed pawn, but then the position might become fortress, and there won't be a way for white to break through. So it's a good practical choice by Nakamura. Yeah, king d6, king e4, and Carlsen was practically forced to enter it. And now the question is whether or not he has a way to squeeze black. Of course, this pawn is a huge asset, but he just needs to create a second weakness. Usually one weakness is not enough to win. Okay, so the pawn on c5 might become weak later. Knight c3, interesting. If knight c4, what does he want? Knight b5 check and take an e7. Okay, so, and this takes place. So now this might be considered the second weakness from black's point of view, because this is one passed pawn on the a file. This is the second one. So seems like black is in serious trouble. King d5, c3, king c4 would make sense, just grabbing the pawn, but Carlsen doesn't mind. Now knight f5 becomes a threat. I believe it wasn't too precise. But knight f5 comes with check. Okay, so Nakamura is trying to survive. If a7, knight b5 is probably the trick. So Carlsen sees right through it, plays knight d4, knight f5 check, and black resigned, didn't even wait to see king c6 on the board. Great technique by Carlsen, and already quite a fascinating start of the match. Okay, I'm curious about the openings mostly, what they will play against each other. So, Nimzo Indian, knight f3, b6. So this is the queen's Indian. g3 is normally the main line, but I predict some sidelines to take place at some point. However, there's no way of knowing what's gonna be the match strategy from either side. So queen c2. So this is one of the sidelines in the position. The main point is that after c5 to sacrifice the pawn with d5. So yeah, now black is bishop e7, I believe. No, a5. Probably it's the wrong situation to play bishop e7. Yeah, so now yeah, exchanging the bishops. I can't say I understand these structures too much. I never played this variation with either color, but I feel like learning today. So let's see what's going on. White wants to expand with e4, so black prevents it by challenging white on the center, and white is probably going to have the open c file later on, and he has, yeah, and after cd ed, normally this structure is considered to be very solid, but slightly more pleasant for white. So for obvious reasons. First of all, he has the space advantage because well, you can see his knight on e5, his queen on c2. Black doesn't have this chance to put his pieces on such squares. Knight on d3 is very strong, and usually black's main plan is involving c5 and playing with a double, I'm not sure how you call it in English, but I think connected pawns. So there, if the d5 pawn is alone, it's called an isolated queenside pawn, and this is two connected weak pawns. Yeah, he took with the knight. He doesn't want to have a weak knight on a6. Feel free to mention the professional term for these two pawns in the chat. So I think hanging pawns, maybe, not sure. Oh yeah, I just said it as 1 second after I said it, someone wrote it in the chat. So yeah, good timing, Ryan Foster. So hanging pawns, and usually speaking, just like an isolated pawn, black is playing for dynamics. So he would rather leave as many pieces on the board as possible, and white would rather exchange. And the thing about hanging pawns is that if any of them advances at any point, it will create a lot of holes in the position. If black goes c4, d4 will be weak. If he goes d4, c4 will be weak, and other light squares around it. So normally they grab a lot of space like this, and they are very strong when they are backed up by pieces, and they limit white. And white normally, his strategy is to block them with the pawn on e3, another pawn on b3, and trying to bring pieces to attack them and create threats, sometimes around the king or the center. But yeah, a4. So preventing any b3 related ideas, or a4 followed by b3 from white. So grabbing more space. Now this b2 pawn might become a little bit weak if black decides to attack it on the b file with some moves. So rook c2 doubling on the c file and overprotecting b2. I can't say I understand the evaluation of the position, but my gut feeling is that white is the one pressing. So even though black should be objectively fine, even in positions like this when the computer evaluates as equal, I always sense like from human perspective it's more reasonable to play with white, or let's say at least less challenging, because black has to find some concrete idea while white can just make a lot of useful waiting moves. And yeah, so bishop c6, and this is why probably most hanging pawns positions are with black having the hanging pawns in any theoretical opening. Although there are some cases where white tries it for an edge. Yeah, queen f4. So the queen has a very nice square on f4 because black doesn't have the dark squared bishop anymore. So he's challenging the queen immediately, and white resigned actually, because after queen f3, bishop g4, the queen is trapped. Quite an amazing tactic missed by Nakamura. I didn't even imagine it would happen in a million years. So I'm a bit disappointed I didn't concentrate and find it myself. So let's see, e4, same position, c3 was played, yes, in the previous game, knight f1. Interesting choice, but both players are quite principled in their choice of openings. They won't back off from the original decision. So Carlsen is leading 2-1. DE, DE, rook d8, same moves. And now white changes with queen a4. I believe he played queen e2 earlier. So a6, e5. Now queen g4 will follow. It looks like black is in a certain degree of trouble already. After queen g4, it's going to be extremely unpleasant to protect the pawn on g7. There is actually no way to do it without serious compromise. An example, after knight d5, queen g4, if castles, then bishop h6 wins the exchange. If instead of castles, black will play g6, then the dark squares will be forever weak. King f8 instead will just give up the right to castle, and the rook on h8 will be quite weak for a few more moves, and it's going to be hard to bring it to the game. So quite a failure from the opening point of view, and now he chose the most practical response, I believe, putting pressure on e5 and just putting the king on f8. He's playing a French style position, but it would be so much easier with the pawns on d5 and d3, because now that the king is in the center, the open center should favor white. Queen h5 is quite a good prophylactic move, preventing any h5 ideas. Or I'm not too sure, but he was threatening knight g5 in some positions, so he can actually consider doing it. But yeah, black is threatening g6. That's probably the idea, but then white has bishop takes h6 check, followed by queen somewhere. but then bishop f8. So I believe g6 should be kind of a threat at the moment. So let's see. Carlsen is thinking, because g6 is quite a serious threat, so probably queen h5 wasn't the most precise. So it looked strong positionally, but because it was trying to prevent exactly what black is doing, but probably failed a little bit. Maybe bishop g5 is an interesting move, but I'm not sure. Sacrifices a pawn. So bishop f4, allowing g6, and then I guess the queen will move, and black doesn't play it. Wow, that's interesting. I wish I could analyze and make moves, but I can't. Okay, probably need to learn more about this interface. h4, knight f8. What does black want? His main aim is to bring this rook to the game somehow, but I'm not sure what's his plan. I guess knight g6 is the immediate idea, to try to take on f4, and the bishop won't be able to move because e5 might be lost. Okay, so white doesn't mind it, he allows it. Now he goes rook d1. So that's quite an interesting approach to the position. He doesn't mind weakening his pawn structure a bit, and even giving up the bishop for knight, because he has a rook more in the game if black is not in a hurry. Okay, b5. So just essentially waiting to see what happens, because he doesn't have too many useful moves. Seems like white should have a serious advantage. Takes. Now what? So queen g4. What happens if you take on e5? I guess knight e5, bishop b7 is winning. No? Bishop knight e5, bishop e5, and then bishop b7. Okay, so knight takes f4 would be a logical move, but then either queen or g takes f4, and it's very hard for black to develop. Probably I would take with the g pawn if I were white. So h5, queen h3, c4, rook d1. Bringing the rook to the open file can't be a bad idea. And now the main question is how to proceed. The queen is out of the game, the rook is out of the game. So Carlsen sometimes likes to put his queen on h1. I've noticed it in a few of his games. Yeah, and he does it again. Yeah, he did it against Anand in, I believe, the first game of their world championship. I don't remember if it was the first or the second one between them, but the queen was on h1 and white was worse. But Carlsen didn't seem too disappointed because he had this battery on the long diagonal. So, and he managed to draw without too many difficulties, even though Anand had a win at some point. Okay, so queen h1 looks like a very good move, at least from practical point of view, creating some threats. Maybe knight d4 is a nice idea sometimes, but I guess not, because just knight takes d4. So if white were to move, what would be his next move? I would say a4, just to create some more weaknesses, but I don't see any direct threat. Maybe knight g5. Yeah, knight g5 is quite good. But it's so difficult to play as black, because if you don't do anything, then white will just run over you. So now knight g5, exactly. And h takes, and h5 is hanging, so Nakamura is sacrificing the pawn to get his rook out. Quite an interesting practical decision. And the f4 bishop is still a little bit stuck. and black can take it at any moment. So there is some amount of compensation, but I wouldn't say full. That seems like a really good choice by Nakamura. Okay, Carlsen is a minute up on the clock, and they exchange the rooks, and what's going on? So any further simplifications should favor white because he's a pawn up, but it's not too clear if what white should do exactly. A queen f3 is an active move, preventing any knight jumps. He wants to get queen a8, and of course pinning the queen to the defense of the knight. I would probably play knight c5 anyway if I were black, just to try to get it to d3 and create some counterplay, generate some counterplay, I would say. And yes, queen a8, queen h1 is a possibility, yeah, just to gain some time on the clock, but knight g4. So Hikaru offered a draw. Carlsen didn't even respond, he just immediately played knight g4. So queen h1, queen a8, once again just gaining some time on the clock while thinking about the position. I like to do it as well, especially in blitz, but it's also a useful strategy in classical chess. But Carlsen decides to take the draw. I guess black already has too much counterplay with queen d1, knight d3 coming, so something went wrong for Carlsen. Great defensive skills from Hikaru. He's extremely resourceful even when his position is seems to be bad. Kudos to Hikaru on this game. So I'll lower the volume of the board a little bit. Not sure if it will work, but I'll try. Let me know in the chat what you think. So I'm decreasing the sound of the moves. Okay, so I missed the entire opening. Bad timing to adjust my stream. So let's see, knight c3, bishop b4. I'll just go through it really quickly because I want to see the context. So one of the main lines, yes, and I believe they are both still booked up, as they say. f3. Now I really like this structure for white. It's extremely aggressive. He wants to get e4 in and run over black. So, but it cannot do it immediately because the d4 pawn is hanging. After de, fe, bishop f4, and queen takes d4 at the end with check. So white prevented just that by defending d4, but now the knight is no longer supporting e4, so black brought another piece to repress this idea. Now once again white is threatening to play e4. So a typical response would be c5, exactly. Otherwise you would get run over by e4, e5. And here we have a very important question. What to do with white? This setup against the Nimzo Indian is not too popular, and I guess it's because it doesn't bring an objective advantage. But in a blitz it's a really nice choice. So queen f2. This f2 square is a very good square in this structure for the queen. I believe I've seen Kasparov play this particular move several times, either from d2 or from e1, although it was a different opening, but still same structure. g6, so trying to prepare bishop a6 without getting hit by knight f5. So seems quite solid for black, even though the position is very sharp. So white takes. I wonder why he did it. I guess he wants to get b4 in at some point, but he didn't do it. So yeah, maybe now because a7 is hanging. I wonder. b4. I should have played the predicting game. By the way, guys, if you see the link in the description, you can play guess the move, and I believe for the most precise people can receive some cash prizes, but I'm not very familiar with all the details. I'm sure I would have good chance because I guess every move I say is happening here, although I probably don't mention too many of them. So b4 c4. Now the d4 square is weak, but black probably can create some threats before d2 will be occupied by a knight. If white had time to play bishop f1 followed by knight to e2 to d4, then black would be in trouble. So let's see what Magnus has in mind. He usually doesn't let things like this happen too easily. Bishop e5 seems logical. Yes, increasing the control of this weak dark squares, and now a5. So that's a5 looks like a good move. Just trying to create a weakness for white on b4. And white counterattacks in the center. There is a rule of thumb in chess that when someone attacks you on the wing, you should immediately counterattack in the center if possible, and vice versa. So that's a good I'm not sure if the vice versa part is correct, but at least the center part is definitely something Soviet chess students hear on a daily basis. So c3, disconnecting the bishop from his defense on b4. And now black is probably gonna win some pawn, but white is still very active. Rook takes, I assume. Why would he think about such a move? Bishop f5, developing with tempo on the rook. And what is white going to do? I don't know. Back to e1. I wonder why he thinks so much before playing such moves. c2. I guess Nakamura doesn't mind being in under 2 minutes because he's so fast. So, and white resigned. Wow, what an amazing performance by Carlsen so far. 3 wins in a row. So he leads 3-1. Okay. What opening is going to take place now? Oh, we have something else finally. We don't have any King's Indian attack going on anymore. Knight f3, knight f6, d4, e6. Now probably g3 is my prediction. No, bishop g5, the Torre. So white is just going to develop with c3, knight bd2, e3, and try to play for a minimal edge with a very small gain in space. Queen c1 doesn't want to make any weaknesses, to create any weaknesses. d5. So black immediately challenges white in the center. So no more space related ideas for white, but he is a little bit better developed. So knight d2, bishop b5. Black exchanged his weak bishop. For those who don't know, when the central squares are on a certain color, and then the bishop that correlates with these squares is the one who's considered to be weak. And this c8 bishop is relatively weak. I have a friend who even quit chess claiming he quit because of this bishop. So it's very important to exchange it when having the chance in this structure. So here b4, white trying to seize more space, and I guess another idea is to get b5 in so we can castle, because right now the queen prevents any white from castling. And there is a small tactic to be mentioned, that if black takes twice, then there is queen c8 winning the rook. So both players has tremendous tactical skills, and yeah, it's very inspiring to watch. Queen b6 castles is my prediction, but maybe white wants to play bishop f4, striking the iron while it's hot. Yeah, he doesn't want to allow bishop d6 so easily. And now if black plays bishop d6, then maybe white will exchange these bishops, or even knight e5 actually. Okay, queen d8, preparing rook c8, white prevents it and castles. This position reminds me of Karpov Unziker. So let's have a look. Rook a2, rook c2 is to follow probably, and it's very similar. The Karpov Unziker game was with white playing bishop a7 in the Spanish, the Rui Lopez, just like this, to blockade the a file. So just like white blockades the c file, and then he's going to double or triple on the c file and take over this file. This is just fantastic positional theme from white being demonstrated in a blitz game. The capabilities of their intuition is beyond insane, in my opinion. So let's see. I assume black is going to castle, but usually when Nakamura dives into such a long thing, it means two things. One, is in trouble, and two, is gonna find something. Very rarely I encounter Nakamura thinking long and not coming up with a creative resource. So he chose to castle rook c2, but maybe against Carlsen it will happen. Knight e8. So this is his big idea, trying to exchange the bishop. And by the way, there is a saying that in bad positions all the moves are bad. So if you think knight e8 is not too strong, don't blame Nakamura. Just look at the position and ask yourself if you could come up with anything better. So here, exchanging the bishop on c7 should be a good idea, but then it will come at the cost of losing a pawn on b7. So black has to find something else. Knight f6. Yeah, now he wants to go away from the open c file, but knight e5 just completely squeezes black, and allowing bishop d6. And I believe the queen is trapped. But then knight takes d6. So Nakamura wants to give up a rook and knight. No, give up the queen for a rook and knight. Once again, I will ask the viewers for the professional term for it. I believe I heard that when you get a rook and knight, or rook plus a pawn against the queen, it's named after one of the world champions, but I don't remember which one. Maybe Lasker. A Lasker exchange or something like this. So Carlsen chose to play bishop b6 in order to weaken the pawns for black. I'm guessing a6 is the idea, but maybe he just wants to take on b6. I would play a6 and then some queen c6, but yeah. So the material balance is only 1 point in white's favor if we count by traditional means, and white sacrifices even a pawn, this 1 point right now. And there is a very good reason for it. His pieces are so much better coordinated. So even though black has enough material for the queen, he's gonna find it very difficult to, let's say, generate counterplay or deal with all of white's threats. So I predict black is going to get squeezed in this position just because of these two pieces. Cannot really find it very easy to join the game. But white has to be careful as well. He cannot relax. So queen c8, attacking the bishop and preparing ba. I actually missed this resource, which is very, very strong. But I guess he had to calculate knight d6. What does he want against it? Queen b8, okay. And then, is there any follow-up? Knight b5. Did he miss it? Knight c6. What's going on? Bishop c7 maybe? Wow, this is really complicated. Knight e7 check will win the game for white. So what up after knight c6? What does black want? That's the big question in this position. And white didn't even play it. He played rook c1. I wish I knew. Knight c6, bishop cannot move. Rook has to move. Maybe rook d7 simply. Yeah. And bishop c7 trapping the queen. But then white gives up gets the material back. But now he's 2 pawns down. How come it's not only 1 pawn? Oh, he gave up the pawn on b5 as well. Yeah, knight took on b5. So now he gets 1 pawn back on f7. White shouldn't be worse, I think, but he might be lost. Who knows? Knight b5 comes with tempo. The a pawn will start marching really fast. So I don't think white has enough counterplay to compensate, but it's very, very concrete. So yeah, and also the b6 square pawn is going to be attacked. That's a very exciting and unbalanced game, and I'm sure white really messed it up somewhere after getting the queen, but I can't blame him. There's just no time to calculate everything, and Nakamura found all the resources as usual. So here h3, no, knight g5, allowing rook c1 check. Seriously? And then knight f1, knight e4. What does he want? He's going to lose a piece? I don't understand. He's going to play rook g7 now, and then probably I can't even guess what's his idea. f3, king f2, knight f1, and now just taking all the pawns if possible. Rook g6. What is black going to do? Even rook b7 back. So he has a pawn as a compensation for the piece, and he's going to get a second pawn. Seems like black has very decent winning chances in this game, and this will be the first regular chess win for Nakamura. It's quite an important game for him. If he doesn't win it, the trend of the match will not be in his favor. And I wanted to mention before streaming, before the game started, that for Nakamura it's very important to have the momentum going in his favor. Much more, it's important for everyone, but for him even more than others, because with Carlsen he doesn't have too much confidence, judging by his past results. So Carlsen is taking the pawn on h6. Now he's probably going to take on b6. No, d5. Knight b4, stopping the pawn, but I'm not sure what happens after rook b1 exactly, and it doesn't look good for white. I think he's going to resign. Rook takes b4 is coming, and then there's just no follow-up. That's a pity for white, because he had the queen for a rook and a knight, I believe, and yeah, he just lost it. He should have won easily under normal circumstances, but yeah, now he resigned. That's one of the things that are so amazing about Nakamura. Many times when he's close to being lost, he manages to win because he just keeps on defending, and it's very hard to maintain your objectivity as the better player or the better position. Sorry, and you have you think like you're winning, then you find some resources. The position is already equal, but there is no time to adjust, and White wouldn't search for a way to equalize or to draw. He will just continue to press, and he might suffer from it. As you've just seen here, he gave up a piece, and he didn't adjust to the situation where Black was already fine. It's so I'll use this small break that they have in the match to mention that before the match I was people asked me, and I predicted that Nakamura will win, and I mentioned that Carlsen is my big favorite from my point of view. I would like him to win, but I think Nakamura is more experienced with the internet, with online chess. So yeah, I'm a bit undecided here. So I would like Carlsen to win, and I predict Nakamura to squeeze the last few points in the bullet segment. Although actually I didn't take into account that there is a 1 second increment, so I'm not too sure the difference is so big actually. Okay, so I'll predict as the match goes on. Rook e8, d5, c6 are the three main moves here. And now Carlsen varied. In the previous game he played d5 and he managed to win. So it's quite interesting how knowledgeable, I'm not sure if it's even a word, these guys are. They play something main line, they win, and then they play something else just because they find it more interesting to vary. And I really admire it, especially about Carlsen, but almost every elite player these days is capable of playing so many different openings. And it seems like even though they make a lot of draws, they choose different openings based on their interest and not necessarily on their let's say drawing chances or so. Same structure, different piece placement. So Nakamura really likes this structure especially in Blitz, and c5 just like earlier, and we get a position that it's very hard to understand actually. I can't say I know what's going on. After dc, Black is probably going to take back. d5 is hanging. What does he want to do? So I will not bother evaluating the position yet. I'll just try to see concrete things. Okay, but why not d takes c5, bishop c5, knight takes, and then maybe bishop e6 with a good compensation. Okay, so now Black protects the pawn. And remember, the c5 pawn is not here to capture or to do anything immediate. It's just here as means of prophylaxis against e4, e5. So it's here just to stay and put pressure on White. So this time he's expanding on the queen side, bringing the knight. I predict some h4, queen e1, queen g3 related ideas. That seems like White's strategy. And Black will play b6, bishop a6, yeah. And try to get some counterplay on the queen side. Rook c8 later. What is the score so far? Paul Carmo is asking. Carlsen 3.5, Hikaru 2.5. So Carlsen is leading by a point, although it feels like he's leading by more because he won 3 games in a row in the classic, let's say in the regular chess part. So knight to g3. I changed my mind about my predictions skills. They're probably not as good as I thought, but I am here to learn. a4, same patterns are taking place. Black is I would say seizing his space on the queen side, and in any case of dc bc he will have the b file to put pressure on the b2 pawn. And it's very hard to make a useful move because his regular bishop a6 idea is not gonna work because the f5 square has to be guarded and this bishop is the only piece who can do it. So he's just making a useful waiting move, asking white to reveal his plan. It's quite warm here in Israel, even though it's the beginning of the winter almost, or should I say the autumn, but I really feel like it's either hot or freezing because my air conditioning is ridiculously cold. So I'm going to shift back and forth as usual. So this will explain the so-called fire alarm, but noise that the viewers like to keep mentioning. So knight b5, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. What is white going to do? I really like this structure for white, but I don't understand it at all with the bishop on g2 rather than d3. So he decided to take. It seems like the trend is in black's favor, but white is like trying to create some attacking chances on the king side, but black is the one who's playing, let's say, with in the more classical way, just putting pressure on the center, bringing his pieces. I noticed something that I don't see very often. Nakamura is lower on the clock on every single game, and yeah, now black decided to give up his bishop in order to have this concrete play in the center and ruin white's pawn structure. But I shouldn't speak about static principles, I would say, features of the position, because this is so concrete. So the only thing that counts is the pieces that are more active, and it seems like black's pieces are more active, so therefore he has the advantage probably. And also his grip at the center is just very powerful. So instead of explaining the position, maybe I'll try to, as I said before, to just say something concrete. I was about to suggest bishop e2, and then white is forced probably to take it, although rook e1 should be, no, it's not possible. Knight d2, knight f3. So knight takes e2 looks forced. I don't know why he's thinking, what is he considering? Maybe to give up the exchange with bishop somewhere, but knight e2, rook e2, is it that bad? Bishop e1, and then I don't see any immediate win for black. So if I were white, I would just make a move and see what happens. It's not very practical to think for so long. And it doesn't look that bad from where I'm standing. It might be very bad, but at least from the Blitz point of view, there are chances for white. So knight e2, rook e2, bishop e1, just go. Yes, it's about time. Bishop h4 is the idea. d4 has been played, c4, d3, and so on is the idea for black. But yeah, bishop f1. Now probably rook e3, yeah, attacking the pawn on f3, and bishop c4, sacrificing the pawn. I really admire how Nakamura doesn't mind giving up material, especially when he's worse. Such a great skill. I want to mention about myself that I tend to be greedy sometimes, even when I'm better, when I'm worse. Yeah, it's not easy to get rid of this greed to get pawns, or not to give them up. Even if this is even a more powerful instinct, to just avoid giving up material. And this skill to play active rather than passive is one of the most important skills in professional chess, in my opinion. In any position I have seen, it seemed like the more convincing move, or even if not the best, the most practical move, is to play active, not to think too much about the cost, and just find the resources that follow. 98, wow. Dealing with the g5 threat in a very creative manner. 96 is the point. White wanted to play g5, g6, and he does it anyway, but I guess 96? No, hg first, yeah. 96 allows maybe gh. Now 96 should follow. Otherwise, what's the point? Maybe just to protect? Avoiding fg with tempo. Okay, I guess it kind of prevented fg. 96, bishop d5 is the typical move. No, he wants to get the queen for many pieces. Can I just take if I'm black? Queen, knight c4, rook g7, king g7, bishop d8, rook d8. Yeah, and Carlsen goes for it. I don't see why not. Seems very, very dubious from white. He doesn't have a real attack going on, as far as I can tell. He probably should have played rook g1 check first, before taking on d8. Now he had to lose the tempo on queen f5, and this was a pity. Yeah, and he has his only chance is to get the knight by some tricks, but even then black should be better because of the passed d pawn. Okay, so the main question is, can black get away from the checks without giving up too much? Probably not, actually. Queen g8. He gave up the knight willingly, and I guess he wants to follow up with d3, d2. So Nakamura starts giving checks. I don't see where the king should go, but I'm sure Carlsen will show us the way. Queen c6. The king goes to take the f4 pawn. I see now. It's quite obvious, actually, now that I see it on the board. So rook e6, and even after I think it's obvious, he plays something else. Rook e1, d2. Wow, this looks like curtains for white, but can he find a perpetual check? Maybe he can. King d7. Now king c7, king b6. Come on. King b6, queen g6, king a5. If queen f6, king b5. That is finished. King a5, game over. White will resign. Amazing performance by Carlsen. Now there is no chance to give a perpetual check, yeah, but I guess Hikaru just tried. And we are delving right into the 8th game of the match, the 7th regular chess game. And they go back to the normal King's Indian attack, but this time Nakamura didn't go for the French defense structure. He played the more common d5 followed by g6. This is considered among the top players to be the, let's call it the principled or the most precise response to this structure. Black shouldn't be objectively worse in such a position. However, in Blitz, if he doesn't know exactly what to do, white might get the easier play. Since he's getting an improved King's Indian, he's gonna get b4 in. I can't say I understand this position too much, but it feels like if I were to play black, I would waste a lot of time thinking, deciding where to put my pieces and if and when to break with f5. Knight h4, typical King's Indian move. f4 is the idea, of course, and black does not prevent it. Probably couldn't have prevented it. Now f5, a typical response to the f4 break. Just capture and blockade the pawns. And b4, attacking on both flanks. Now I would expect black to develop with a queen somewhere. But where? Maybe queen d7? Then knight b3, b6. Okay, I'm not too sure. Knight df3 also looks quite interesting, aiming for knight g5. And white goes for b5, bishop a3, I assume. Not even. Rook e1. Preparing bishop a3 related ideas. This bishop on a3 is going to be quite useful. Knight f7. Knight h f3, wow. Why? Why not bishop a3? Just develop a piece. I don't understand. e5. Okay, this is too deep for me. Why commit to such a thing and give up the d5 square? No, it seems like e5 was a mistake from white. I cannot say now knight f4, knight c3 are two threats. It's really mysterious for me, these last two moves by Carlsen. So I see someone in the chat, Jeroen Vandenberg, asks to lower down the chess.com sound. I believed I already did it, but I didn't get a confirmation that it worked, so I will mute it and for a few seconds and just make sure it does mute it, and this way I know that my method works. And if it doesn't, I'll have to ask the viewers what else to do. So right now I'm muting the sound of the chess.com. Please tell me as fast as you can if it does or does not mute. I assume there is some delay in the stream, but still, I would like to know. So for now you shouldn't hear anything yet because, oh, now they played bishop b2. So for example, I don't hear any sounds. So it's muted, great. Okay, so now it seems like it works. For those who are curious, I'm just using the volume mixer. So let's put it here. So now it's a bit lower than what it was before, but still you should be able to hear the sound. Okay, thanks. And I will correct the title. Thank you for mentioning Lawrence Vanderpool. My eyesight is not what it used to be. I'm looking at a distant monitor and yeah, the letters are quite small. So how do I change the title? Not that it matters to anyone but me and Lawrence, but I care that, so I will change it. Official. So I mixed the A and the I. Official. Unofficial. Okay. So title should be fixed, but I don't see a save button anywhere. Back to the game. A lot of developments has took place. sorry. Knight d5, then I just want to quickly see for myself because I'm also here to observe. Bishop b2, knight e3. Yes. Wow. So many tactics. Rook a1. Okay, I really don't understand what's going on, but it seems like black has more material as far as I can see. One pawn to be exact. And white has a lot of holes. He got the pawn back. It's not as bad for white as I assumed it would be, to be honest. Queen b5, I guess, is the point. Once again, why is black thinking? Because knight d4 is winning a piece. Oh, no, it's not. But queen b2, bishop d. Oh no, bishop d5. Yeah, and black will suffer. So queen b5 falls for knight d4. That's actually quite a strong tactic from white. Magnus anticipated it. I wish I had time between the games to go through them and talk about what I was thinking in retrospect, but it's just too fast for us. We'll have to what's the word? I forgot my English. So taking on a7 seems like the logical move. I'm actually checking the word I wanted to say, but I forgot. Yeah, settle. We'll have to settle for just watching this amazing match without going through the games afterwards. So, thanks Douglas for mentioning that my English is fine, but it could be finer. So, let's see. 91. This game is just too unbalanced for me to understand it. It's good enough for me to enjoy, but not easy to commentate on. So it's quite amazing that we have almost 110 viewers watching when I just started to stream spontaneously without advertising it anywhere. I assumed we'll have like 20 people more or less, so I'm really glad so many people enjoy following this channel. So let's see, bishop f8. Wow, so many tactics with e6 come to mind, but nothing seems to work. Queen d5, rook c8. Yes, threatening e6. Can black do something against it? Knight d8, precisely. I don't think white is better, but I really wonder what went wrong for black in the process of taking over the initiative. It's extremely complex. Even now in the end game, like, it looks like white is better, but then black might be blockading the pawns. So many pawns are hanging. Wow. Rook b5, d5, rook b2, de, king e7. And black might just hold. d5. Wow, rook takes b2 seems like the only move, as far as I'm concerned. And de, king e7. What did Carlsen see? And if he didn't see anything special, why did he go for it? Oh, he's thinking. That's not a good sign in this concrete position. H4. I probably missed king e7. I don't know. He shouldn't have gone for such a simplification if he saw it in advance. Now bishop h6, very strong move. Preparing king e6 followed by bishop f4. Yeah, this looks really, really bad for white. So rook h8, king e6 will take place, knight g2. So Carlsen is struggling for his life in this position. Rook e8. It's important to go for the initiative because materially speaking, if you just start exchanging pawns, it will not be so good. Now bishop f4 and black can transpose. Yeah. Rook h7, king e6, or h5. Wow. So he wants to get the doubled f and h pawns, but black will not allow it. Rook a4. This looks completely lost for white. Just the h pawn will start marching, and the game is essentially over. Yeah, now king e5. That's it. F and a pawns are more than enough to win easily. Yeah, and white resigned. Yeah, this was so complicated and double-edged. I just want to drink some water. I don't know what's the correlation, but there must be something. Okay, another Nimzo Indian. Queen's Indian. I like to call it the quid. So this time black is going for a solid setup with bishop e7. It's not too popular in classical chess, but I really don't know why. Yeah, d5 is one of the typical responses for white. If ed wanted to go knight h4, I guess. Bishop b4. Just gonna mention ed knight h4. Yeah, bishop b4. This is probably still theoretical. Now rook e8 would make sense to me. Knight c5. Okay, so he wants to respond to a3 with captures and a5. Knight h4. Typical move, creates the threat. But the bishop is hanging, so de is not a threat. If the bishop was not protected and bishop takes g2 would allow ef with check. But now de, black can just go de and the knight protects the bishop. So I'm not too sure what's white's idea. Maybe to just go e4 later, to have the bishop support the e4 square. But knight h4 doesn't seem... well, okay, maybe it was just a good move and I don't understand this position. Yeah. Knight ce4, blockading the defense on the d5 pawn. And without knight h4, the d5 pawn would already have been hanging. So this was probably a good move. But it's still not too clear what white should play now, because this pawn is hanging and don't see any move. Maybe bishop takes f6, but it's really ugly. So Nakamura, as usual, sacrifices the pawn. As I mentioned, I didn't even consider giving up to the pawn. So even if it's not the best move, I just want to mention again and again how much I admire this quality in a player. To be the opposite of greedy. People in the chat, feel free to mention the opposite of greedy in English, if such a word exists. e4. So white has more space on the king side, black has more space on the queen side. The position is very double-edged, but shouldn't be too dramatically in favor of either side. So knight f5, rook a8, queen c1, I guess will be quite dangerous for black. But h6 maybe, just avoiding queen g5. Yes. Okay, so what can black play? White, sorry. Queen c3, preparing knight takes h6. So maybe black will go queen e5. What else? Other moves will give up the d file, so maybe move the knight cannot move because of the mate on g7. So queen e5 seems like the only reasonable move I can see, and king h7 as well. I missed it completely. Okay, good move from black. Now bishop c6 followed by whatever, just doubling the rooks. I don't know what black should do, but I cannot give a recommendation for white either. So knight e3, yeah, king g8, nice, very high class being demonstrated from Carlsen, just not caring too much about wasting time as long as he maintains the play rather than exchanging pieces. Another quality I admire. So I mentioned playing actively, and probably another form of playing actively is maintaining the richness, if it's a word, the richness in the position, maintaining a rich position. So looking at the chat, if someone suggested the opposite of greed. So people suggest generous, but yeah. So for those who keep mentioning the headline with the word unofficial being misspelled, I corrected it, but I don't know how to update it while streaming. So thanks for caring so much. I see Chong in the chat mentioning that I'm assuming in referring to Nakamura that he's able to see ahead enough to know a sacrifice is worth it. But I don't think these guys calculate so much in advance when they give up a pawn. They just feel the compensation. It's like it feels like it's almost an purely intuitive the sacrifice, and yeah, it's even over the board in classical chess. It's hard to calculate all the variations. So they just sense the danger. They sense that they will lose if they play regular moves without doing anything special. So they change the nature of the position. It's one of the principles when having a worse position. So posing more problems to the opponent. I should probably look at the position every now and then between commentating the chat. But I enjoy the English lesson that I'm receiving here. Conservative or abstinent might work, but not greedy is probably the best to get the meaning across. I'm a bit disappointed by how scientific this answer has been. Thank you, Toby, but I would love to have a word for non-greedy. Let's invent one if we can't find anything. So, okay, white is better in this ending for reasons I mentioned earlier, because he has a bit more space and his king is more active. However, in this case, it's not as dramatic as in the first game, because black still has more space on the queen side. So, and there are some weak pawns, and this g6 move was really nice, allowing knight takes h6. Once again, I have to mention how resourceful these guys are when they have a worse position. g5 now, just fantastic. Securing the e5 square, and now, yeah, I don't know what's going on for white, but something went wrong. Wow, that's just. I don't think black is already better, but he has chances to win, which shouldn't happen in such a position. I guess when you want to win a better position, you have to take some risks against these guys. Although in my level, I just play safely most of the time, and the opponents do the rest of the job for me. But here they are just trying to make the best moves on every move. Yeah, and to be honest, it's more interesting for us. So let's see. White is still pressing. The A pawn is in trouble, and he offers a draw. Just as I was saying, he's better. And black refuses. Oh. Another amazing quality of true, let's call it true fighters, is that they don't take draws, even if the position is not necessarily better for them. It might be, but it's not. I'm sure Carlsen wouldn't agree for draw even if he was slightly worse. Just they want to fight until the end in every position, and this is such an important quality to maximize the experience of the game, both for the player and the viewers. Okay, I have been idle for 1 hour and I have been automatically logged off. Excuse me for this minor setback. I'll go back right there. I should probably have moved the mouse, but or do something. I guess it will happen every hour of the stream. Maybe I need to change it somehow in the settings. So going back to the game, I want to follow Magnus. We are watching from his point of view. Observe, follow. Okay. Excuse me for the small delay, or setback, I should say. So now knight f7. Not much has changed, but black is a pawn down after having refused for a draw, but white doesn't seem to have an easy way to win. Knight d6, king b4, knight c4. He gives up the piece and he wants to secure the draw. Once again, stating the obvious, white doesn't mind giving up material. Such an important quality in chess. And now the position should be an easy draw. Oh no, knight h4 prevented the draw because the f5 square is not protected. Wow, I missed this completely. I thought king f5 was still legal. Now knight g2 going for the h3 pawn. Wow, amazing. Black is actually winning. Oh my god, white was a pawn up. I wish I had time to analyze it. I want to go back to this game, but I will not remember anything about this number, so I'll mark it for myself. This was game number 9, I believe, or 8. Wow, Carlsen is not just an endgame master, he's just Carlsen. There's no other word to just squeeze all the meaning. Oh man, this was amazing. Refusing to a draw, then being a pawn down, and then winning anyway. Wow. As I was complimenting white for giving up the piece, I should probably compliment much less in this match. We're just gonna smash each other and my compliments at the same time. So they're waiting for the next game, and I have to say that now, knowing the score in the match and also knowing that there is a +1 second increment in the bullet segment of this match, I don't think Hikaru has such an edge in the bullet. He probably is still the favorite in the bullet segment, but he's not going to crush Carlsen. If there was no increment, I would vote for him as a heavy favorite, but given the score here and the fact that we have increment throughout the entire match, then there is a very, very high chance Carlsen is going to take it. And of course I can't say why it's so obvious for me, but I root for him. I mean, I have nothing against Hikaru. He's a great player. I admire his skills. But yeah, Carlsen is just the hero of the chess world from where I'm standing. And yeah. So yeah, the best in the world all time, and it's I kind of want him to keep improving with no limit, just to keep expanding the abilities of the human race, the peak of what we can offer to the world. Did something happen to the match? Because it does not continue. I want to click something to see if maybe I'm looking at it wrong. They're both not playing at the moment. I'm still following Carlsen. So So what I wanted to mention at the beginning of the stream, as I said already, who's my favorite, and the fact that I think that Hikaru has more chances in the bullet. They have the new game. So this is the 3-minute segment, 3+2, and so we finished an hour and a half of 5+3. Now we have 1 hour of 3+2. This is the first game, and it's chess 960, also known as Fischer random. And I would like to mention, I hope I'm not wrong, but I think I heard in previous matches that they receive the positions in advance, or at least a set of positions, so they get a chance to analyze them. But I'm not sure this is a factual thing to say, because yeah, I just heard it while watching the stream. And I remember hearing Grishuk saying that he analyzed the position with the computer a little bit and not too much. So I'm assuming the reason they play fast in the opening rather than thinking like people would normally do when they don't know where all the pieces are is because they kind of have an idea. But then again, they might just improvise, knowing that they are approaching time pressure. So feel free to say in the chat whether or not it's actually known in advance for the players where the pieces will be. Bishop a4 check. Knight ac2. I'm not even going to attempt to guess the moves. I'll just say general things, even though the position is very concrete. So let's see. I should probably move my camera a bit. I don't know what happened, but it's blocking the screen. I'm sure it wasn't this way the entire match. Okay, sorry about that. Something changed about where the board size. So just after I did it, I see someone mentioned so that the video was blockading it, the h1 and two h4 squares. Yeah, Amira Sajid, thank you for mentioning it. And yeah, I wonder how it happened. So actually, I don't feel like commentating the Fischer random game. I just want to experience it, to watch and admire what I'm seeing. The king on e2. I mean, looking at the chat in such a position would be a waste of this pure entertainment. So bishop c3. Yes, finally my move has been played. b5. So it feels like black should be better because it still has the right to castle, which might prove useful. Not anymore. Okay, so what does he have? The control of the dark squares. Both kings are in the center. Okay, I'm really confused. What's going on? Bishop on h1 is a little bit out of the game. So, exchanging the queens. c4 is hanging. White did not really defend. Why didn't he defend? I don't know. Maybe he thinks he has good initiative for it. I would have defended the pawn. But I just keep repeating the same thing, that these guys, they don't care about material as much as I do. And maybe it's working in their favor, one might guess. So 93, fe3, rook c5 looks like an idea on the next move. So probably 96 should be played. And then bishop f3, or at least trying to get his bishop back to the game. No, white has a good compensation. Bishop f3 anyway. Rook c4 maybe? What happens after rook c4? What? Didn't he just blunder a piece? No, knight a3. Yeah. Okay. I was just going crazy. They're so tricky. It's amazing how fast Nakamura sees all these tricks as black, and even faster how Carlsen avoids them and not falling for them. So bishop e4, knight f6, rook c4 now. Did he fall for it? No, because b1 is protected. Okay. Wow, my brain is slow. Rook a7, bishop c2. White should be very close to winning. Knight e4, maybe? Knight h5, and g4. Oh, f7 is hanging. So fast. Wow, I wonder how I will commentate on the bullet. Oh, maybe I should just put on some rap music and just watch it with you guys and not commentate. Oh, it's so fast. Rook c3, and then e4, maybe trying to mate. But it doesn't work as much as I wanted. g6 square won't be under attack. So rook c7. So now probably e5 is a bit weak. White is completely winning, but how should he exploit his advantage? King f2, king f3. Now looks like he went wrong somehow. He allowed some counterplay. But he has the e4 square. Okay, that's and now bishop g8 is a threat. Wow. Oh, that's so high level. Now maybe h4 followed by g5 is an option. h3, g6, h2. Yeah, that's a nice way to lose. King d3, allowing rook h2, but then planning bishop e4. So he gives a check and takes on f6, but wow. What is going on? Only one pawn. So this looks like it should be a draw. But a draw has been offered by black. Once again, a draw is offered and agreed. Wow. White messed up in this winning endgame. Carlsen does not win an endgame. What's going on? No, not Fischer random. They should play a regular chess game. Oh, they accidentally rematched each other instead of offering a new game. Okay. So. Again, this opening with less time this time. Wow, I wish they play something I have a clue about. I would at least... I mean, this is more fun for me to watch, but I mean, I won't mind demonstrating some understanding once in this stream. Yeah. Okay, so c5. Hanging pawns, at least I learned some English. And knight takes, once again. You would expect him to take with the pawn and not to be left with an isolated queenside pawn, also known as IQP. But he took with the knight because the knight on a6 was a bit weak. So, I really don't understand why people play this with black. I mean, even if the computer would like it, this pawn looks like black is slightly worse. Makes me feel like black is slightly worse. And white doesn't have to give up anything serious for it. So, why do they play it? Maybe you didn't play too accurately. I don't know. I'm very surprised by Carlsen's choice of opening and his strategy in this match, even though it seems to work for him. So far leading by 2 points. Anything by rap. Ben Scott, don't worry, it was a joke. I was just relating to the speed of the games. I can also put some classical music that will be extremely rapid and maybe the Turkish march as they play bullet. So well, black's d-pawn is no longer isolated, but it's still not looking too good for him. Come on, guys, just play the Grunfeld or, I don't know, the Catalan even. Just do something with the pawn on d5. Don't give up the center as black. And if you do, then please play something as cool as the Grunfeld, when you have amazing counterplay, and not just this, whatever this is. I even wouldn't mind seeing the Slav or the Queen's Gambit decline, but put the pawn on d5 or play the Grunfeld. Or even better, don't play d4, just go e4 and avoid the Berlin in every single game. I think I just realized why they didn't play e4 in this match just yet. Both are Berlin aficionados, and they know the viewers would probably just exit with rage if they see another Berlin today. We'll probably have enough Berlin on our plate in the match in 2 weeks in New York. So, back to the game. Queen d7. Queen c7 looks reasonable for white. But Nakamura might have something more vigorous in his mind. Queen b6. Rook c8. Maybe bishop c7. Just like, but 98. I was getting overexcited from this theme. So, what can you do? Black is going to suffer, or I can guarantee you this, but whether or not he will survive, that's, I think, mainly up to Carlsen to decide. I believe he has the skills to hold, and also is not too low on time. If he does happen to lose this game, I will blame only one thing: the opening. So passive. So what's going on? Just going back and forth. This is something I like to refer to as dancing. Both players are dancing, hoping that the other one will fall. But nothing happens. I guess this strategy will favor Hikaru, as they will, if nothing happens in the position for the next 10 moves or even 30 moves, and then he moves a pawn, then Carlsen will have less time to deal with the problems once he decides to do something. So I wouldn't like to be black in this position. Well, I'm very good at stating the obvious. So 98, and all those who guess the moves while watching the stream, you're probably going to suffer if you try to guess anyone's move in this position. I mean, they have like 5 different options on every move, and it's not so clear which one they'll choose. Nothing is forced. Queen c8. Komarov. Damir Doma asking for Komarov. Well, I would have fun, but because this is such a historic match, and I assume that in the next years to come many people will watch this video, then maybe I'll keep a more conservative approach to my commentary, but only on this one. If you want to see some Komarov or any other imitation, I'll probably do it more often on my Twitch account, and if you don't know it already, it's Chess Juice on Twitch, and we are going to stream on a daily basis starting from next week probably, and we have we have 3 grandmasters already and 6 other international masters who are members of our amazing team and are going to stream, so I'll probably mention them in a separate video. So now the position is starting to look like a fortress, and Carlsen doesn't allow too many bad things to take place. And well, I wish they wouldn't spend so much of the time from the match on going back and forth on this game. Wow, f5 was nice actually. What would have happened if gf? Oh, bishop h5. So white actually managed to break through after all this time, but he's not gonna get too much out of it, because if king b7, king d5, and then king c6. So wow, a3 is falling, and now black seems to be better. Wow. Now, what? 93. Oh, wow. Such high level tactics. I mean, giving up the b5 pawn to have this race, and then he's gonna take the h4 pawn somehow. Oh, the king will come to grab it. Okay, I think black is winning now, because both of the pawns will fall. So amazing technique by Carlsen. Queen e4 is not winning, but can you queen f8? Wow, he missed queen f8. Just blundered the queen in one move. Yeah, I saw a tactic before they played it. Oh, I'm not quitting yet. Not that I would quit otherwise, but at least now it's justified somewhat. Okay, next game. Carlsen is leading by 3 points, and Ryan Foster, be careful what you wish for. We saw some nice... Carlsen actually won this game. Wow! He was suffering for like 100 moves and then he won. These guys are so resilient. It's amazing how tenacious they are. And you give them the slightest chance in a worse position and they will eat you alive. It's amazing. They say football is entertaining. People should watch more chess. So now this looks like one of those positions that Carlsen likes with white. Not too much going on, but he has a little bit more space on the queen side, and everything is quite simple but very complex from strategical point of view. And he's going to get e4 in. I'm assuming now queen c2, because you want to protect the bishop on b2 and also be able to capture back with a piece on c4. But then d4 will be hanging. Or not. Queen c2 I like. So e4. He wants to take back with the knight anyway. He doesn't mind. Well, Ryan Foster in the chat mentions that it was a strategy to bore his opponent to death. I'm assuming you're referring to Nakamura boring Carlsen to death in the previous game, but this is inaccurate from several reasons. One is that Carlsen won in that game, and the second thing, so there was no death involved. And the second thing is that it wasn't so boring, it was just equal and they both continued to press. It wasn't completely equal from the get-go, just from the opening. So I can't complain. And this f5 was this pawn break that white did was extremely thematic, and black but why am I talking about the previous game? Let's just focus on this one. You can say it's boring, but I find it very hard to play when I'm with either color, so I can see why it's interesting, or at least challenging to come up with moves. So don't expect any fireworks, just try to predict a move and see how complicated it is. There's so many traps. So e5 is hanging. This pawn is kind of a problem for white. And of course it's his main asset as well, the reason he has more space. So how is he going to deal with it? He's going to play f4? I cannot say. Well, actually, yeah. Thank you for mentioning, Ryan, that Carlsen is the one boring Naka. Maybe, actually, this might be an actual match strategy, because he's playing all these openings that I refer to as passive, and then he doesn't lose with them. and he's playing with the black side, and with white he's pressing, so maybe it's a very good approach. Naka is extremely powerful in unbalanced positions, so yeah, I guess it might be strategy. Otherwise, I don't see any other reason to play these boring openings with black. But well, maybe I'm biased. So let's see. I can also say something that I feel like Nakamura's level of play is very affected by the level of his interest in the position. So when he has the initiative, he is much more powerful if you compare him to other elite players than when he has a boring position or a relatively calm position. Although I can't point out any weakness for any one of the top 10 players that would be significant. They're also good at anything that is involved with chess. So rook d8 is to be expected. No, queen f6. What's the point? h4, h5 maybe. Giving up the pawn on c4. Yeah. So, what's going on? White is suddenly winning. I was blinking and then... Oh, no, it's not. Rook f7? I just didn't look for a moment. I wanted to check if something is wrong with my stream, if anyone sent me a message. And suddenly the position changed drastically. So I'm looking at the notation. Queen f6, queen b4, rook d7, queen b1. Okay. So I guess I didn't understand what was going on, because queen f6 didn't look too dangerous from where I was standing. But now it looks winning for white. Rook c7? Why is he thinking all the time? Why not rook c7? Okay. Oh man. Giving up the pawn. King h7. I don't understand. a4? Okay, rook e6. The game is finished. No? Why not rook e6? He wants bishop d6. Oh. Okay, but it seems overly complicated. Rook c2, then c6 and c7. Okay. And he resigned. Wow. I wouldn't have chosen this way to win. Before they start the next one, no, I didn't have time to look at what was the threat. b3 on the board. Finally, let's see how they will manage to get a dry position here. Oh, this is Nakamura's bullet opening. I myself played at least 10 games of bullet with Nakamura as black in this opening. He always plays these pre-moves. I think his idea is that there is no way to let's say exploit these pre-moves. And I've seen many people copying this opening for bullet, but well, in Blitz it's not too convincing for me. So this 5 seconds advantage that Nakamura has might be significant in bullet, but not here. But now that we can look at the position, let's see what actually is going on. White is expanding on the queen side, with this pawn chain. You're probably gonna get a pawn on a3, and black has this regular King's Indian attack set up, and he's gonna go knight f8, bishop f5, h5, maybe h4, knight a2, h7, and try to generate some attack on the king side, but not before putting pressure here. Although I can't say it's too convincing for me. 95. Okay, of course I can't criticize this play because he's going with a piece to the center, plus it's Carlsen we're talking about, but I'm not too sure what white would have played after knight f8 and bishop f5. Yeah, I guess this one is stronger because you kind of threat bishop g4, and h3 is very weakening, allowing some potential sacrifices. So anyone who asks for the result, I'm pointing out with my mouse here. You can see Carlsen's score, and here you can see Hikaru's score so far. So there's no point for me to mention. And while I was explaining this, another dramatic change was taking place. Nakamura sacrificed 2 rooks for a queen in order to avoid getting squeezed, I assume. This 95 move was stronger than I thought. Rook a1, come on. 95, even better, because rook a1 there was queen b2, harassing the rook. And now bishop d5 and rook a1 cannot be prevented. It looks like white is in serious trouble. Bishop e5 threatening rook a1. g3 has to be played. And now, how can white, black, sorry, exploit his advantage? It's not so easy. Once again, kudos to Nakamura for changing the nature of the position when he, just as he's starting to sense the danger. He's so impressive with his skill. Just immediately giving up some material, creating some unbalance in the position, and sometimes even manages to win instead of losing without a fight. I didn't see a single game in this match where someone lost without a fight or without having chances, at least in the opening. So yeah, I wouldn't be saying I'm disappointed with what's going on. So now bishop d5. '94. I missed it. Wow, opposite colored bishops with queen versus 2 rooks. This should favor the queen in principle, but since black's king is very safe, I think it will favor the 2 rooks. Because now rook f2 is might not be a threat actually. Rook f2, king f2, bishop g3 check. Sorry, and then yeah, taking on e4, and the endgame is a draw probably. So instead we went g4. Now bishop f6, putting the bishop on h4. That's very nice. I'm predicting queen f3 and bishop e2 to be played. Don't see anything else. And then something related to rook b2, rook d7, rook 7 to d2. White is in deep trouble, and he resigned. Okay. Okay, knight f3, g6, g3. Carlsen plays the same opening over and over, but it seems quite successful for him. b3, bishop b2. Wow, I just realized that from Carlsen's point of view, the opening is very sensitive because he's going to play an actual World Championship match in 2 weeks. I have to say it's very impressive that he agreed to play this match just before the other one, giving Karyakin so much food for thought. And probably this is one of the reasons he chooses openings he would otherwise prefer not to play, in my opinion. So, back to the game. The typical scenario where white has a little bit more space and black is extremely solid. He got his bishop to e4, which would otherwise be a bit weak. He doesn't even have to exchange it for a knight and give the two bishops. He just wants to exchange it for the actual white squared bishop, which he achieves. Now a4. So black is expanding. Every game this a5, a4 is taking place. And yeah, nothing much. I played with black sometimes, this structure, but I can't say I enjoy it too much, and I also can't say that I understand what's going on, because it looks so close to equality, but white is still pressing a little bit, so I really don't know where to put the pieces even. So knight d7, maybe e5 is an idea, but white doesn't seem to care. Just playing bishop c3, exchanging on the a file. So black is trying to relieve the tension by exchanging pieces. And now c5. Oh, white is thinking here. Why was he thinking? Okay, c5. Rook d1. So he's going to be left with hanging pawns. White will have the hanging pawns this time. So takes. What's going on? e5, bishop c3, queen c6 check. I think something went wrong for Carlsen in this game. Knight f4, very creative. Immediately exchanging the queens, but he probably missed this resource, because now he's forced to go back to d3. Or not. I missed it. So many tactics. These guys are fantastic. Rook b1, come on. Yes. Now king f1, yes, and now bishop e5 is a threat, so knight a4, knight c4, bishop c1 of course. Yes, and rook b7 is an idea, b6 protects from this threat. Now white will bring the king. Pawn up for Nakamura. But Carlsen defends bravely so far. Knight c3. Very active move. He wants to plant the knight to d5 and get e4 later on, I assume. So bishop c5, overprotecting b6, releasing the knight. So now the knight can go somewhere. Let's say d6. f3. Protecting against a potential e4 check. And also preparing, I guess, knight e4 for later, but who knows. My technique has never been the impressive part of my chess. King e2. No, knight d5. Wow. That's very classy. Preparing e4, ignoring the pin on the d file. So b5. Now preparing knight c4. No, I don't see anything too dramatic. e4. That's right. Rook a8. Okay, so this was the idea. Wow. Rook b3. No, bishop c3 with tempo, but rook a3 anyway. And now, moving the king will allow f6. Kind of forcing f6, but he also has no f6. Knight c4 will drop b5. So what is happening? Knight c7. Threatening knight e6, fork. And he doesn't mind it. If bishop takes, what was the point? Takes, no, just rook a2. I don't even know. Bishop takes, what was the point? Takes. Wow, I don't see anything. Rook a7, knight e6, giving up the piece but then retrieving it with rook c7. Okay, I guess king b3 should be a good move. Also bishop c3 followed by this, but then knight b5, knight d4 check. Forget what I just said. So rook c5, rook c1. Seems like white is defending bravely. I don't see how black can seize the initiative. Bishop takes f5 probably is the best try. Yes, takes, knight takes, exactly. Now knight d4, knight f3. Sorry. Play knight d2 instead. And got the pawn. So Nakamura really enjoys playing this type of positions with the knight against the bishop and just dance with the knight back and forth. I've seen him playing it many times in games with no increment, and even with 3 seconds on the clock he would manage to flag people with much more time, even against 15 seconds. He will just go back and forth with the knight, pre-moving everything to victory. Pre-moving his way to victory. Okay, so that's a nice statement. But how can you do it here? Should somehow give a check. Knight e2, exactly. Then I don't even see a plan for black. He wants knight h3 now. So he went back. King f1 is the only move, otherwise king f2, king f1. Where is the win? Knight d2 check doesn't... I think you should put the pawn on h3 as black. And then try to mate the white king. Come on, do it already. Put the pawn to h3, give a check, bring the king to e2, give a check on f3, king to f1, and win. Should work. He's considering what I just said. I'm sure he's calculating it, because he will not be able to win without doing it. So pawn to h3, but then Carlsen will probably play king f1, but black will have knight e3 check followed by king g2. So knight e4, bishop c7. No, he doesn't want to allow h4 anymore. He changed his mind. Okay. h4, come on. Put the pawn on h3 and win. I don't understand. Why? Why go with the king to g6 and allow h3? Why? Oh my goodness. I wish I could analyze it now and show my plan and maybe search for a defense, but I don't see any button. Oh my goodness. So here, just with the knight on f5, h4, h3. Wow. So many interesting endgames. So game number 9, this was game number 14, I think. So I have 2 games from which I'm going to sit with the board, not with the computer, with an actual physical board, and start analyzing the endgames by myself until I figure out what is going on. So here, c6, knight e3, bishop e7, no, c7, knight f5, d5, knight e7 is the main theory of the, yes, you guessed it, Berlin. They finally played e4 after all this time. Wow, this is not the type of position I would like to play with black. But as we mentioned earlier, I guess Naka was a bit discouraged from the Queen's Indian with bishop b7, even though he had a small advantage. And now he chose to even enter the Berlin, the thinking that even if I have the right position, I might as well have the pair of bishops. But I don't like this logic. d4 with main lines and show the viewers how to play proper openings. We want to learn. We don't want to just observe people dancing when it's not the main skill they came to exhibit. Yeah, I don't know. What's going on? By the way, guys in the chat, even ladies, if there is anyone out there, is the 720p or however you call it, HD, does it work now? Did I change something or not? And even more importantly, does it matter to anyone? Okay, so I don't know how to change it, but the second question is the one that counts. Oh, I see. The text on the screen is unreadable. Alright. So now you've given me a good reason. Lawrence Vanderpool, thank you for mentioning a valid reason to actually work it out. And to be honest, I'm not too interested by this particular game, so excuse me. I will take this, use this advantage to take advantage of this to try and change the settings. Well, I don't see any way to fix it. And it says that there is an HD possibility, obviously lying to us, but what can I say? I'll solve the settings before the next stream, so it will not happen. Okay, wow. The position has changed dramatically. Now black is a pawn up. Not anymore. And white is looking like he is in the process of winning. And actually, as far as I can see, it's been 2.5 hours since the beginning of the match. So I want to have a quick look at their clock. They have 9 minutes left for this particular part of the match. So I guess there is time for exactly one more game after this one, and then they move on to the bullet. And I think I'll use this time to actually think about how I'm going to deal with the bullet. Feel free to suggest, because commentating is not such a... I think I'll just shout tactics if I see anything, without even explaining. I'll just shout a move that wins if I see it, and if not, I'll just focus on the moves in front of us without saying anything, because there's not much that I can say that will benefit anyone. I'll just enjoy it and scream a winning tactic if I see anything. Okay, so back to this game. White is better. He has the two bishops. Black is defending tenaciously, and it looked earlier like he was winning when white was winning with the battery on the long diagonal, but maybe it's still the case, because AB. Now where does the knight go? There's queen at g8 check. Repeats, but queen and king h3 exactly. Queen d6, bishop d5, amazing. Now can I go queen g8 and bishop e6? No, it will not help. Knight f8 looks forced. Queen f8 is also possible, I guess, but queen e6. and mate. Oh man. So white managed to squeeze the win without too many problems in this particular game. Okay, so Carlsen is white, and this is probably the last game of the Blitz segment of this match. Okay, the regular opening that we saw so far, d5 followed by g6 system by black against the knight f3 g3, and now a3 is quite subtle. He's playing it like it's the English opening, but there are a few differences. The knight is not on c3 and he lost the tempo for it. The bishop is on d2 rather than b2, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Seems like an improved version of the typical English for black. So yeah, interesting. Knight a5. That's a very double-edged decision. I really enjoy this about this particular match, that Carlsen is leading and he's not trying to get a dry position when he's white. He's still playing very double-edged, and he fights for every point. He doesn't want to make a draw, even though he's leading by 4 points. So good question, Peter Hardy. I join you with the question, why does HD matter for chess? I guess it changes. If it were HD, my camera would be a little bit better, but nobody cares about this, I hope. Yeah, and for the chessboard it doesn't matter, but as someone mentioned earlier, the notation cannot be read properly. You would see the words, the letters much more clearly if you were to watch in HD, or I believe it's called not Super HD but something else, when it's 1440 pixels. Carlsen is delving into a long thing. Okay, Maya Wallin, thank you for mentioning. I will say, or Maja, I don't know how to pronounce any name virtually. So let's say, I will follow your advice. I'll say the opening names, and as I said earlier, try to scream the move before the position passes if I see something really, really good for any of them. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it now as well. Okay. So Rook c7 looks like a logical move. Thank you very much. Bishop e2. Giving up the e4 pawn for absolutely no reason. Why would anyone... Oh, knight b5 was an idea? Maybe he just wants to get the a6 pawn. Maybe it was a deep positional sacrifice that I fail to understand. Rook a4 now? Rook d3. He wants to get the a6 pawn, and he probably played bishop e2 knowing he will lose e4 to avoid any knight b5, knight d4 ideas. Yeah. If it was a good move, then I mean I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean it's not too hard to admire this level of play, if you know what I mean. And the stronger I become in chess myself, the more I manage to appreciate how incredibly powerful both of these players are. And I have to add, especially Carlsen, even though probably not everyone would agree that he's one level above everyone else in Blitz. Okay, bishop c5, bishop f8, and now we get the a6 pawn. Bishop a6, come on. You don't want to exchange rooks, but maybe you do. I don't want to allow the knight to get to a7. So, wow, bishop f5. I wouldn't have considered this move even in classical chess. The rook is passive on a8. When you have a chance to get a rook and bishop versus a knight, a rook and knight, and you go for a rook endgame, that must mean one of two things. You gave up some winning chances, or you're a genius who understands that this position is winning for whatever reason. Of course, black is passive, white is active, and now he gives up the pawn, but yeah, I wouldn't have played bishop f5, even if I would think it's a good move. I mean, their mind is so flexible, both of them. They don't get attached to their ideas, even though they seem very obvious. Alright, rook h8? No, king g5 simply. So a6. Okay, so we have the h pawn, we have the a pawn. Can we exploit it? The f pawn is also very important, so let's go with the h pawn forward. h5 now, come on. h5, then you have to go something like a7, and then h6, and then bring the king over. f3 is correct. Now h5, h6. Come on, what do you think about? There is no reason to think. You just have to sit with king g7, king h7, and wait. Then the king will come. Okay, now, okay, but what's the difference? I mean, just all the same. White will collect the f pawns at some point. At least one of them goes to b1. Then it will march with the king up, go here, and king d5, king e6. I think the pawn endgame should be winning in case of some rook d8, rook d7 check at some point, but I might be wrong. So h5, h6, and then it's gonna be Zugzwang. Both f pawns will fall. That's it. Game over. King f5, h6, resign. Why is he thinking? Why not h6? What? He wants h6 to be protected, but what's the difference? Was there a stalemate idea that I missed? I don't know. I guess there wasn't. I don't know. this was a bit too subtle at the end, but a win is a win. It's funny, I mean, maybe he was actually taking more time because he wanted the clock to finish. Okay, so they're taking a very short break, and now they're gonna play one game of Fischer random, chess 960. So this with 1+1 time control, then followed by another whatever is left with from the half an hour for bullet games, pure bullet. Carlsen is leading by 5 points, and yeah, even though it looks finished, there are still chances. I mean, they are going to play at least 15 games in this time. I hope. Well, maybe not actually. I think it will be a good strategy for Carlsen, even if he is lost, not to resign and just keep playing until the very end, and then buy time from the match. Once again, I've been idle and I've been logged out from the server. I don't know how to avoid it, so I'm following Carlsen once again. Excuse me. At least they're taking a break this time. Follow. Okay, so let me know if you like the fact that I'm following from Carlsen's point of view and not necessarily from Naka's. I was considering both. So someone in the chat is asking why is it happening. So I'll mention that on chess.com live play, this place, I don't know even how you call it, online play interface, you cannot stay there for more than an hour without creating a game or doing anything actively. At least that's what happened, what it states in the message to me. And I'm just watching the games without moving anything and without creating a game on my own. And I assume they don't want people to watch this way. They want them to watch the actual stream rather than follow the games from here. And yeah, that's my guess. So every 60 minutes I'm being logged out, forced to log out, but we are not complaining, right guys? Thank you for the comment, Ben Scott, for thinking that Carlsen is the better player. I am not 100% sure it's true when it comes to bullet. I'm actually, my opinion is that Nakamura is going to be the better player, or at least I would say that Carlsen, in my opinion, is a bit too objective in bullet, if you can even say it as a weakness. And here we have the bullet section. Okay, Fischer random. I will not state the opening, of course, in this particular game, but I will just be relatively quiet and try to mention a tactic if I see it. I might even show it with the arrow. So wow. Looks like black blundered already. Move 6. I didn't even spot queen f5 check myself. a7 is hanging. But you couldn't take it, I guess, because of bishop c6. Okay. So as I predicted, Nakamura is, or maybe I didn't mention it, but I did think about it. Nakamura is faster in the bullet section, but thanks to the 1 second increment, Carlsen has a chance to exploit a position if he's winning and would otherwise lose on time in proper bullet 1+0. Okay, so what's going on? Bishop a1. Knight back. And then castle long. Why? I would play knight d7 and castle. Why didn't he just castle a move ago? I guess because it's bullet. Okay. Knight e3 is a threat. It wasn't, there was queen g5. So, sorry. No threats for either side. g7. d4. Wow. I can't follow anything. Finally the king goes to safety. Black is better. Queen c3. Rook b3. Rook d8. Come on. Taking on a2. Nice. Rook c2 was a threat, by the way, followed by knight c4 check. Okay. Takes on c2. b3 is hanging. Nice. What? Oh, we forgot there is increment. Oh my god. Carlsen forgot there is increment, I guess. Why would he give up the queen like this? And lose. That was insane. He was completely winning and then he gave up the queen. By the way, in the actual stream you can see their face. I would like to watch it later and see his face when he played queen takes b5. So, King's Indian, the main line of the variation with the g3. Okay, not really a main line, but one of the classical variations. This early d5 by white. And where are the tactics? Carlsen is thinking. Okay, knight on d4 is stronger than the bishop on g2. g5 is a good move by black. King h8, nice. Rook g8. Rook a8, wow. Nice. a5, just marching forward. Typical bullet play from Nakamura. d8. No, he doesn't care about e6. a2. Probably he's just gonna go a2 and win. Rook f8. Even more precise, I guess. Okay, knight e6, nice. Rook a3, And queen f6. Okay. Black is winning. Queen b2. Oh my god. Queen b2. I saw it before it was played and he resigned. Carlsen tricked Nakamura in a bullet game with increment. Wow. Queen b2 check. Queen f6 was not a good move after all. Nakamura is off his game today. That's my conclusion from this particular bullet game. Now, he doesn't even play his bullet opening as white. So, seems like regular opening play from both sides. Now bishop f6. No? Rook d8. Yes. Bishop d5. Yes. No tactics for now. Black should not be worse. I saw someone in the chat asked about this opening. I don't know how it's called. Is black better now? G6 or G5 even. Wow, G5. Oh, he wants to gain a tempo, but allowing the king to come. Yeah, at least. But G5 wouldn't have allowed king G6 on the next move. Okay, so good call from black. Now what's going on? Bishop takes. Oh, he's in trouble. Yeah, black is lost. D6 and D7 and D8 and it's game over. He resigned. Great performance by Nakamura in this endgame. Looked like black was pressing from where I was standing and then suddenly white wins. So very good play. Okay, this is considered to be a relatively dry line against the modern defense. 1 G6, Bishop G7 is the modern defense. One of Nakamura's, if not the favorite weapon in bullet and even in blitz sometimes against low rated players. I saw actually he does play it even over the board, so yeah, against weaker opponents. But in bullet he just absolutely loves it. Modern defense. Okay, did he miss a pawn? Normally 94 works, but not now. So just gave up a pawn by accident. And Carlsen is doing a good job of keeping it. Bishop e3, come on, yes. Takes. No, don't take. Rook d1. Rook d1 immediately would have been so much more convincing. Now the e4 pawn would still be defended. So bad judgment by Carlsen of taking on b3. Now it's not even better. Oh, but bishop c5. Yes, I didn't spot it myself. Rook d6. Ah, what is this? Why not rook d6? One move ago. Okay, but this is not serious. Ah, it traps the knight. It doesn't even only win the f6 pawn. Oh, but knight d7 was too deep for me. Rook d6 looked perfectly fine. White is just absolutely crushing. Such a great play. And resigned. Still a 5-point lead for Carlsen. How much time do we have left in the match? Well, I don't see the clock anywhere. I'll have a quick look. In the meantime, I'll mention that this is the Rubinstein variation 4e3 of the Nimzo Indian, even though they got it from a different move order. And black is fine. Okay, 17 minutes left. So they're probably gonna play around 8 games in 17 minutes. Good question in the chat by Chris Dunn. I'm not sure I pronounced it well once again. So, what does Carlsen have to do to cement his place as the best of all time? Well, great question. So I cannot really answer it very directly, but I would say that if he crosses the second place in the world by more than 100 points, then and also achieve it in any other time control at the very same moment in time, then there will probably be no doubt in my mind, because even though he is better in or first rated in the world right now, you can argue about other time controls or online play. In the meantime, Hikaru won. So it's actually quite close. 4 points to favor Carlsen. I'll try to enjoy it. But I remember Fischer had more than 100 points or something like this over the second spot in the world, even though back then people were not as strong as they are today in chess. So And in online chess, he just has to beat everyone and maintain 3200 rating here or 3500 on ICC or whatever for a long enough period of time while beating all the best players. So So the stream is, I'm not sure if the stream will end just as the games are finished, but assuming it will, then the stream will end in about 14 minutes. As they started a little bit late. I originally planned to finish this stream about 4 minutes ago. Okay, so should probably look at the game. It's the most exciting part. I was waiting for it and now I'm looking at the chat instead. I remind myself of this little boy from the story where he was waiting to go to Disney World and then for many weeks, and then when his parents finally took him, he was sitting there on a bench staring at the phone and writing messages on WhatsApp instead of going on the rides. So let's see. Okay, rook d8. Good guess. White is a rook up, and doesn't seem to be any serious chance for a revolution in this game. Bishop takes d4. No. The a pawn is going to run very quickly, and there is no chance to change it. Carlsen is very alert. Yeah, bishop e2 is very precise, not even allowing e3. So he maintains a 5-point lead, and we have just enough time for approximately 5 to 6 more games. So unless Nakamura wins all of them, he will probably lose the match. But I will state that even after the match is already lost, there is still point for both of them to keep playing, because the prizes, some of the prizes are divided by the relation between their score, and therefore there is still like $100 difference between each win, even after the match is decided. And even though it's not too much compared to the first prize, it's still quite a lot for one bullet game, especially that both of them, I assume, play bullet sometimes online for fun. And this is quite nice. I like this method by the organizers to maintain the interest until the very end. So the position looks better for white. Queen f4 is a very nice way to give up the pawn. Queen e1, very practical by white. I like both of their moves. Even in bullet, they are playing very high level chess. They will not rest for a moment. a4. Nice. Fixing the pawn on a2, planning to go bishop e6 and maybe b5 later. Now bishop e6. h5, nice. Threatening h4, king h2 or king h1. Nice. h4, queen f4, king g1, king h1. Come on, king h1. Now h4 and queen f4. Black needs to find a way to generate counterplay, otherwise he will just go down easily. King g7, maybe g5 now, yeah. But now he wants to exchange queens. Okay, that's a pity for black. I think he shouldn't have allowed it, but I'm not sure how. King f6, giving up the h4 pawn. White is probably going to win this game, but as I mentioned, it's probably a good strategy for Carlsen to just continue until he's losing on time and get as many moves in as possible, so that he will leave less time for Nakamura to close the gap. The chat is too entertaining, but I'll have to focus on the board. It's too bad it won't be available for me later to read. So this is just amazing. Wow. White is winning. Knight c4. Game over. Ah, even this. Just finished. But don't resign. Come on, I would play bishop e6, f3, f2. Let him mate me on the board, so I have less time to ruin the match. 4 points difference, 7 minutes. Okay. Even if Nakamura wins all the games in a row, he might not have enough time. But this is exciting. So I want to. So the opening here is bishop b5 check against the Sicilian. I'm not sure if it has a name, but this pawn structure is called the Marozzi structure, or the Marozzi bind. Now it's considered to be quite harmless, but at the same time very solid. Not the Marozzi, this particular line, because if black would still have the bishop, let's say on c6 or c8, and white will have an extra light square as bishop, he would have a serious advantage. But with no space, it's easier for black to have only 3 light pieces rather than 4. And as you can see, he generated very nice counterplay already. Okay, grabbing f4. That must count for something. Ah, but then I d4, winning a piece. Oh, that's a pity. Knight d4, come on. Queen g5. I missed it. g3. What next? Bishop c1, knight f5. No, it shouldn't work. So knight f3, that's correct. Now what? Okay, Carlsen is trying his best to create complications. Knight b6, c5 next maybe. Nope. Oh, this is nice, but the knight is still hanging on b6. Oh man, not so easy. Knight d5, nice. Nice, cd is the point. Wow. Queen g5, come on. But then h4. That's very deep. I don't know. What now? Rook c2, knight d3 maybe. Come on. Oh man. Simplifying for a winning rook ending. But is it so winning? White still has some theoretical chances. As the black king doesn't have anywhere to go. Or does he? Rook d8, nice. now this position should be a draw. With the increment it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Only 3 minutes left for the match, so I can say it's pretty safely that it's already over. 4 points difference. So I don't think there is doubt that white will manage to draw in here. Carlsen is not playing for draws. He is just making a draw here. Someone mentioned in the chat. And my response is that he's just making a draw here because he doesn't even have a theoretical way to win. Okay, so assuming that black will not blunder the rook, of course. Okay, so this is probably the final game of the match, or the one before that. The opening is called the Bishop's opening, even though it started from a different move order, and we are following something that's somewhat the main line of this variation. And maybe I should scream some amazing tactic at some point. There don't seem to exist any, or at least I'm not fast enough. B5 is the idea. A5, nice. Okay. Bishop G5. Now maybe Queen B8, Queen A7. It's completely silly, but Bishop H4, good. Every single game they get this structure and white doubles. Bishop G5, cool. H5. Okay. The position is looking good for black. And in case someone is interested, there's only 1 minute left for the match. And they both have 50 seconds. So I don't think this game will finish in the next minute. But I also don't think that Carlsen will take the draw. Yeah, I think he will just try to go for the win. And I hope that we'll see some nice tactics going on and that I will manage to guess one of them. C5 was really nice, by the way. Wow. This is very deep. Is this pawn endgame a draw? Is Carlsen gonna play d5? I think he has to take on c5 and then allow the pawn endgame. Come on. Nakamura has to take. Hikaru offers a draw, but Carlsen doesn't agree just yet. He can take control of the e5 square, I think. King d6. He should have two tempi. King e4, h3, and he's winning because he will have b6 later. No! Why not h3? Or b6? Oh. Come on. Why repeat the position? No. Try to win with h3. Don't take the draw. Allowing h3 is silly. Oh. King f3, king e5. Okay. After the match is finished, I will show what I believe to be the win in this position. quite instructive, I think, and I'm very surprised Carlsen didn't play it. I'm so disappointed from Carlsen not doing it. So I guess what Carlsen is trying to achieve is to play as many moves as possible to get the match finished on this game. Or maybe he's hoping to confuse Naka. And now they will agree to a draw. Because even if White wants, he will not be able to lose it. Yes. Okay. Now the match is over. Carlsen has won 14.5 to 10.5. And I will mention that the win that I think that Black had. So I'll press analyze, and now I'll show you guys what I was thinking. So here I keep saying guys, but of course I address to females as well. I check the stats of my channel and I have 97% males watching me on the channel, and I'm very curious who's the 3% and what's the rating. So in this particular position, I think if Black played h3, let's say for example king f3, king e5, king d4, now b6, White will have no choice. So I'm just going to go through it slower. So this was the position after king e4. So Black doesn't want to play b6 because then White will play h3. So he goes h3 himself, and he has an extra tempo reserved, and this is exactly what he needs, 2 tempi. So the first tempo is used to have a Zugzwang here. Now king f3, b6, sorry, king f3, king e5, king e3, and now it would be a Zugzwang, but Black has the second tempo in his favor. And now after king f3, I was thinking that Black will win using this idea, king e3 and a stalemate. But it's not a real stalemate, because after b4, which is the only legal move, we get this variation. And now instead of capturing the queen on b1 on b8 with a stalemate, Black can mate with queen f1. So this variation is what I anticipated to happen in the game, and I'm very disappointed it didn't take place. It would have been so nice to see it on the board, h3. So please don't speak in a how do you say it? Say any bad words in the chat. So this would have been winning for Black, and would have nailed what's the phrase? Something, the last nail in the coffin. I don't remember. Just and it would have been a nice symbolic finish for this match. And well, Carlsen won, and the result, if I'm not wrong, is 14.5, 10.5 in Carlsen's favor. And put the last nail in the coffin. Thank you, Chris Dunn. By the way, 50% of this 3% females is probably my mother and my girlfriend, but I wonder if the other 50% are just people I know, or just actual proper chess players. So one day I will solve this mystery. So for now, this match was very exciting. I was rooting for Carlsen, so he's my chess hero, obviously, and I'm very glad to see him demonstrating some good chess. And just like someone mentioned in the chat, that the fact that 2 great players are playing and we get to witness it and see it in real time. And if you watch the original stream on chess.com, then you can actually see their faces in the Skype conversation and the response. I personally am going to check out the match and watch their faces in some moments. I think it's going to be priceless. There is no other place on the planet or in history where you get to see Carlsen and Nakamura's faces while they play online and blunder everything. And I think it would be a nice idea if someone would sacrifice some of his time to actually collect all the interesting face expressions and mark all the times in the stream where it happens and let the rest of the world enjoy. I would have done it myself if I didn't already spend all this time on this particular stream. But yeah, it's been very nice to actually stream it and watch it while other people are watching me watch it. I find it fascinating that this possibility even exists. If you want to see more of my streams, because at least half of them are spontaneous, then feel free to subscribe, and this way you'll get a notification or an email when I go live or just when I upload a new video. And yeah, I want to mention that I opened a new channel called Chess Juice, and Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky is the highest rated member we have so far, and he's, speaking of chess.com, he's going to play in I believe 5 days from now a tournament on chess.com while streaming from the Twitch channel. I will post the link in the description later. It's not there right now, but if you search for the words that I'm writing in the chat right now, I will write it in the chat. If you search these words on Twitch, you'll find the channel. And once again, we don't have a regular schedule just yet, so feel free to hit follow there, which is the equivalent of subscribing on YouTube. I wouldn't mind also if you drop a like on this particular video. People don't seem to be aware of this option, and it doesn't give me anything in particular as far as I know, but it supports me, and every bit of support that I can have is very helpful, because it's not too rewarding to do all these streams all the time, and I do it for fun. And if you want to encourage me to do them more often, then please support it in any way you can. That won't take anything from you. And on Twitch, actually, some people donate, and this is even more appreciated, but it's not necessary, just appreciated. And yeah, me and some of the other members on that particular channel, we enjoy streaming for fun, and we all kind of dream to play chess for a living, and it's very hard to make it come true. So any support is extremely appreciated. Thank you everyone who was watching. We had 160 viewers at the peak, and I think it's a record number on my YouTube channel. And I'm very happy to do it. And for now, I think I will log off, because I still have some plans for tonight. The night is still young. It's only 11:26 in Israel, and we'll talk again probably in a few more days when I stream one of the tournaments on lichess.org. So thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it, and if you want to enjoy some more and maybe even learn something, then feel free to watch the next videos.